called hocus pocus or magic, levitation, telekinesis, etc. are not new. But the reality is, this is not magic. The ability of an individual to harness and project your mind, it's only an electrical, it is an electrical circuit, and that's all it is. But we also know that we're actually using a very small potential of this most times. And as many of you would know, Einstein's brain was actually preserved, and it's available right now, even today. They've tested it, and it was one of the brightest minds the world has ever produced. And how much of that mind do you think was being used by him? It's 10 to 12%. Over time, these numbers have changed because of the way that we calculated it. One time they said most human beings use 1 to 2% of their potential. Now they're saying we use somewhere between 5 to 10%. But just imagine, if you could even just double what you do in terms of the capacity of the brain, it's still only be 10 to 20%. So we have an immense capacity and capability, very often not understood by us ourselves. The story of the bumblebee is well known. There is no way theory can show you that it can fly, but it does. It doesn't know it's not supposed to fly. We used to have this discussion in our company some years ago. We've actually tried to keep our heads down and focus on our work. Only the businesses which have a compliance reason or a consumer at the end are the ones which get publicized, but most others we don't like to even talk about, much less publicize. But some of them have grown to become leading businesses in their own areas. Some of them are globally leading businesses. We had at one time, I think, 6 or 7 companies in the group which were amongst the number 1, 2, or 3 in the world. This is before we restructured the group. And we had a visitor one day. He's saying, how has this happened? How is Hero Cycles the largest company in the world? How has what was then Hero Honda become the largest company in the world? When you're addressing a market like India only and not addressing the world markets or a few other markets around you. And the reality was, frankly, we don't know. We were fortunate in the early days that the culture that got built in the organization said the most important asset that we have as an organization is people. It's the only asset which is appreciating. Every other asset is depreciating with time, whether it's buildings, machines, technologies. We build some of the best buildings, actually. We have the world's largest green roof on one of our factories. Many of our factories don't look like factories. When you drive in, they look like your campus, actually. They are green. We built a new factory which we opened last month in Neemrana. We turned the trusses upside down and used the trusses as a frame for solar panels. And under the solar panels, because there's still room, through hydroponics, we are growing food. We are growing plants and food which will be used in the cafeteria and the canteen inside. So let me just switch to another area. In 2004-05, some of us authored a report which said India can grow at a very rapid pace, and it should. But our biggest problem, our bottleneck, is going to be people. We almost got laughed at. We said, please read the entire line. It says, we will fall short of people with the right skills and the right attitude. Because we have not focused enough on people. We have not focused enough on education, vocations, and skills. And which is a shame, because we are, as I said, a nation which has taught the world how to do this. So over the last 250 years or so, we allowed ourselves to slip. At the end of the Mughal period, when the British came into India, India as a single nation was doing 21% world trade, one nation. Great Britain, as it was then called, had 1% world trade. In 1947, Great Britain left India with 21% world trade. What do you think was left behind? 1%. So it was actually an economic subjugation which happened. And we allowed this to happen. And then, strangely, we adopted the same system where the government, a small minority government was trying to run a large nation which was primarily against them. So our rules, laws, regulations are based on mistrust, that the average citizen will do the wrong thing. And that change, I think, is long overdue to be made. We have to trust Indians to do the right thing. And by the way, they will. If you look at what Indians have done worldwide, now I'm talking of the recent past, in the last 50 years, what Indians have done across the globe, in the US, in Europe, even in Far East, in the Middle East, doctors, lawyers, accountants, technologists, scientists, pretty much any profession that you look at. There was a time when 3 major global banks had Indian CEOs. There was a time when 3 major telecom companies had Indian CEOs. 3 of the major airlines had Indian CEOs at one time. If we can do this when we go out, if you go to California, for example, a very large number of the startups that were being referred to earlier by both Pankaj and Kiran are actually Indians. So what happens to us here? Why are we not able to do this? I'm absolutely delighted to hear what you're doing here at the IIIT. I think that's the kind of change which you will make. Each one of you needs to be a seed which will make this change in yourselves and around you. Of course, it's important what profession you pick, because unless you pick something, your ability to drive your passion is limited. And as we just heard, your profession might change over time. It doesn't matter what it is. Please do it with a sense of joy, a sense of commitment. As they say, if you enjoy what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. It's just a joy. Every day when you when you get up, you want to do more of it. And that's what's a joy in life. Sometimes people talk about others, this guy doesn't sleep, he's working too hard, he's working too long. Please ask them, does it seem like a punishment for those who are working 10, 14, 16, 18 hours a day? If it was, they wouldn't do it. It's obviously something they enjoy. And that's what moves the needle. That's what makes the big difference. I like that your leadership team is talking of startups, incubation. We would be delighted that all of you walk out of here with jobs. I would be even more delighted if a large number of you said, I don't want a job. I want to be able to give jobs, to create more jobs. As a nation, you need to create 1 million jobs month on month, every month for the next 10 years. Our biggest challenge, and we have to recognize that all of us in this room are completely blessed to be born in the families that we were born in, to get the kind of education and opportunities that we got. Because we come from a nation where 250 million people are not able to get 2 square meals a day. So there is a responsibility all of us have to make that change, which is the reason I'm urging you to think not just about jobs. Of course, it's good to get jobs. By the way, please don't misunderstand. I'm not running them down, because we need smart, young professionals to drive Indian enterprise. But if you can be the one who creates jobs, you are the multiplier. We often talk of industries which create a large number of jobs, whether it's textiles, automotive, defense, tourism. There's a whole lot of industries, house construction, which create a massive amount of jobs. But who's the real multiplier? It is individuals who have the ability, the grit, the guts, the ability to take the risk and go out and set up these enterprises, push them to grow in spite of challenges that we will all face. So we are a nation of extreme diversity. We are also a nation of extreme dichotomies. If you look at the World Bank's report of ease of doing business, we are shamefully low. Yet, people want to come back to India, and this is a question I asked some of your faculty, because a large number of them have come back from overseas, because this is where the opportunity is. And the change in the environment, in the work culture, has actually to be made by us. We cannot be pointing fingers at the government even in today's time. Who is the government? Who picks the government? Who makes the government do what it should? It's all of us. It is our responsibility as responsible citizens of the world. We also need to recognize our responsibility is not just in your immediate neighborhood or in your society or in your nation. The way the world is getting connected, increasingly, it is a responsibility for all of us to be responsible citizens of the world as well. So I would urge all of you, no matter what you pick, please ensure that you do your work with a sense of responsibility and with a sense of ethics. There is a huge moral dilemma right now that ethics has almost become unfashionable. And that, I think, is a big, big problem. Whether it is corporate scandals or scandals in government or scandals amongst individuals, I think it's a shame that as a society, one, again, which talked of the value system, the Guru Shishya tradition came from India. And what was the reason? What was the system? Was not just to teach you about technology or soft skills or a language. It was to teach you life skills as well. And again, I was glad to hear from your director that you are focused on multiple life skills, sports, and other activities as well. Because we would like our young people to come out as complete and balanced individuals. You are our future. I hope, by the way, some of you think about the future seriously, because you're going to spend most of your time there. So it is important, I think, for us now and then to think a little bit about this, but it's more important to not have to think about it all the time, to make this second nature, to make this your normal behavior, to question decision making. Am I doing the right thing? One of the things we did many, many years ago in our companies is, when any new manager is hired, any new individual is hired, as a part of the orientation, they are told these are the company's philosophies, value system, etc. You will have to make decisions all the time. And that's what life is about. You make decisions every single day. When you have to make a decision, we expect you to do two things. One is to remember that something which has to be done must be done, and something which does not need to be done must not be done. Don't waste time, energy, resources, money, etc. At the same time, when you have to make a decision, you don't need to ask anybody. You are free to make decisions, but make sure you're doing the legal thing. More important, make sure you're doing the right thing.